Good evening, all present here. GCT Alumni Association and Voice Service Club of GCT Youth generally presents the wonderful webinar series, Great Conversation and Talks, bringing GCT alumni back to campus. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the 11th edition of our webinar series, that is How to Be More Productive, Techniques that Can Help You. Let me extend a warm welcome to our eminent guest speaker, Mr. Vijay Thomas Francis, sir, an alumnus of our GCT. I extend a genuine welcome to respected Dr. Prasanamurthy sir, Secretary of GCT Association and proud alumni of GCT who are gathered here, and all the participants of our webinar. With this my welcome note, I am going to introduce our guest speaker. Mr. Vijay Thomas Francis sir have completed his bachelor degree in computer science engineering in Government College of Technology, Coimbatore at 1994 batch. Sir also completed the business leadership program from Harvard Business Publications. Sir has served as various positions from program manager to global head of hybrid integration platforms in Cognizant Industries. Now, Sir is the founder and MD of P2X Consultancy Services, Chennai. In this wonderful occasion, I have to thank our respected principal of GCT, Dr. P. Thamare ma'am, Dr. V. Prasanamurthy, sir, Secretary of GCT Alumni Association, and the whole GCT Alumni Association and student members of Voice Service Club of GCT Youth for the wonderful support to successfully presenting this series. If YouTube live participants have any queries, you can put it in your live chat. Sir will address the questions. Now I'm handing over the session to our guest speaker, Mr. Vijay Thomas Francis, sir.
Thank you, Anand. Good evening, all of you, and welcome to this webinar session. Before I start this session, I would like to wish all the teachers who are part of this webinar, a very happy Teachers' Day. It's always nice, when you come back to your alma mater and speak to the students, and it's a great opportunity for me. And I really hope that this session will be very useful for all of you. Anand actually introduced me, but I just wanted to give a quick introduction about myself, so that you know who I am. So I am a GCT alumni, passed out in 1994, computer science and engineering. I also have a business leadership certification from Harvard Business School. I right now am a founder MD of P2X Consultancy Services. It's the management and consulting firm. It's based here in Chennai. I also, in parallel, I also function as an IT advisor for a group of investment and venture firms. Overall, I have about 25 years of corporate experience. I worked with the large companies such as Cognizant Technology Solutions, Wipro Systems, and a few other companies as well. Now, productivity is something that is a passion for me. Over the last 5 years, I've been doing a lot of research on personal productivity, and I've been helping and guiding some organizations also in terms of helping them improve their overall productivity, team productivity, and so on and so forth. And I'm based here in Chennai. I just wanted to, before I start the webinar, I just wanted to quickly, touch upon what is the intent of this webinar. What am I trying to achieve, and what is that you will gain out of this, right? So the intent is primarily this, right? We wanted to give you a basic understanding of what is productivity and what does productive work really mean. And the reason I wanted to do this webinar is, as students, you may not hear this term, very often. It's not a really a topic of interest for you as a student. But as you venture out of your college life and you start working, and you will realize that this term actually becomes more and more important in your day-to-day life. And what I found out in my career, as well as in the last 5 years of research I have done on this topic, is that this is a very, very important tool for any individual. If you understand how to be more productive, then there is a lot of things that you will solve in your day-to-day life. And I will talk about it, what are the things that you will solve, what are the challenges you face and how to overcome those challenges. And And there are ways and techniques to do that, and that is what I'll touch upon. There are many techniques available, but what I'll do in the 1 hour that's available, I will introduce you to some of the very important, most important techniques that are available that you can actually keep in mind. May not be useful, not all these techniques will be useful for you right away as students, but if you keep it in your mind, and in the future, over a period of time, you will realize that these techniques becomes very important for you, and you can start practicing these techniques. So that is what I'll do. I'll probably touch upon about 8 or 9 techniques that are available. Some of these are tool-based techniques. Many of them are behavioral techniques, and how to use them in your day-to-day life. I want to keep this webinar very interactive. So there are some Q&A slides I have. I have question and answers. So I'll put those slides. And what you can do is you can go and put your response on YouTube, and so Anand and others here who are moderating this will be able to communicate that back to me. So that way we can keep it more interactive. And if you have any questions, you can post it. I'll be more than happy to answer all your questions as we go through this webinar. So I'll start with explaining, what does productive work really mean. So productive work is basically it's the act of completing a task or an activity. It can be any task or activity. It could be something that is related to your scope of study, or it could be something related to the work that you're doing, or it could be something very personal to you. It could be a personal work also. It's an act of completing a task or an activity or producing an output using the least effort, least amount of time, with least errors. Now there are many definitions for productive work, productivity, and all those things. But this is what I have found to be the easiest to understand and the most useful definition, right? If you are able to do a task or complete a task in the fastest amount of time, spending the least amount of effort possible. And when I say least amount of effort, it's not like you do it immediately. It's the least amount of possible effort that you can expend, the least amount of time that you take to complete the task, with the least amount of errors. Normally, errors are something that is not factored into productivity. A lot of time when people talk about productivity, they really don't talk about errors. But I have found that that is an important factor actually. To be more productive, you should be able to reduce the amount of errors that gets into the task that you're doing. So this is a simple definition of what productive work really means. And productivity is a term that is used to measure productive work. So it's basically the rate of output for per unit of input, right? That's a simple, it's output divided by input. That's a simple definition of productivity. That is how it is measured. Output can be anything. For example, if you are in a manufacturing kind of work, it could be the number of bolts manufactured per hour, right? Now, how does each of those factors that I spoke about, effort, time, and errors, factor in here, right? If you're able to manufacture the largest amount of bolts, for example, if you can do say 150 bolts per hour, when your competitor can only do 100 bolts per hour, that is productive. That is being productively better than your competition. And if you can do that with the least amount of error, so every bolt that you manufacture has 0 defects, right? Then that is what matters. So if you manufacture 150 bolts, but if 75 of them are defective, then it's not really productive work. So that is where I said, the errors actually is also an important factor. Although normally people don't talk about errors when discussing productivity. So I believe then this actually gives you a fairly good understanding of what productive work really mean, or productivity, the definition of productivity. So why does it matter? Why productivity matters? It matters because of the following reasons, right? Productivity is important because it helps you, it provides you an ability to be able to complete a job on schedule, right? Now, it could be any job, and it could be your student work, what you do as part of your curriculum, maybe an assignment, or a project work, or whatever you do. Or once you venture out from your college life into a professional life, it could be any work that you, any task that is assigned to you. If you're really productive, then you will be able to always be able to complete the job on schedule. And what does that mean? That means that you you will be able to uh, um, have an optimal work-life balance, right? You don't have to spend way too many hours at work. You know, it reduces your stress or the feeling of being overworked, and you will hear, some of your people, your would always talk about, how stressful the job is. I'm always it seems like I'm always working, I'm always in the office, I work like 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day. That is because you don't people don't practice these techniques properly. They don't do their job in the right way, and that is why, they feel like they're being overworked. And so there are ways to correct that. And so you'll be able to only work 8 hours a day, still be able to complete all the job if you practice the right techniques in your day-to-day life. And productivity actually helps you to do more with less. It's not only a productivity is not a subject of an individual. It is also a subject of a team. So if when you work as a team, the team productivity also matters. It's not an individual's productivity. The team as a group, if all of them are productive, then the team will be able to do more with less. So instead of having 10 people do the job, you can do it with 8 people. So that is also important, right? And then the final one, it provides a competitive advantage. The people who are individual who is productive does the job better than their peers, right? And so it gives you that advantage over your team members or your peers in your work, or wherever you are, right? I think that's and if you are an organization, it gives a competitive advantage. An example I showed you in the previous slide, right? If you can do 150 bolts per hour instead of 100 bolts per hour, that is significant productivity. So as an organization, you gain from that. So these are some of the things that really are important, and this is why productivity is such an important topic. As you in the future, as you venture out, you will see that why it really matters. Some of the factors that can influence productivity, what are so these are some of the reasons why people may not be as productive as they want to be. And all of these, I'm sure you will be able to relate, very nicely. The first thing is multitasking. A lot of people I've seen like to multitask. They do two or three things at the same time. Multitasking is actually a productivity killer, and that is not a good practice at all. It's always better to focus on one task at a time, complete it, and then move on to the next task. And then I will talk about it. There's some techniques available on how to do that. The second factor is lack of focus or distractions. The distractions are the single most important factor that influences productivity, or it actually, it affects your productivity. The more you get distracted, the less productive you will be. And I'll tell you why it is. There are scientific data that is available to show that distractions affects your productivity. The third factor is always staying connected, right? You have your mobile phone on all the time, or your on your social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, all those things. You keep getting notifications. So these are things that affects you, and distracts you, and makes you move away from the task that you're at hand. So that is another factor. The other factor is skill gap. You're trying to do a job, but you don't have all the skills that are needed to be able to perform the job successfully on time, right? So that could be a reason for lowering the productivity. And there are ways to actually overcome that. And the last point is the lack of collaboration. And this is very important, right? Most of the work that you will do, or even that you are part of, today you're part of a classroom or a batch where there are multiple students, and you do a project work. You don't do project works individual, right? As an individual, you do it as a team. You have some 3-4 people do the project. So collaboration is a very important aspect. And collaboration, the more you collaborate, the more productive you can be. And I'll talk about that. There are some techniques that are available on how to collaborate better, and that will actually boost productivity. And the last point is the demanding workplace, where you have a boss, or you have an advisor, faculty advisor, who is trying to extract more work from you, or giving you a task, asking you to complete a task, um, you know and but just gives very little time to do that. That actually puts a lot of stress, and that could impact productivity. So these are some of the factors. There are many more factors, but these are some of the factors that can really influence productivity in your day-to-day life. So before I get into the real, start talking about real techniques, right? I will take a pause. So far what I have given you is very theoretical, right? Just a definition of what productivity means, productive work means, factors that influence productivity, why productivity really matters, and all those things. So I wanted to, maybe pause for 30 seconds, maybe, ask you to, it's just a poll actually, what are the reasons, top reasons that you see are impacting your productivity? And what do you think are the top reasons that are impacting productivity? So maybe I'll pause for about 30 seconds, maybe a minute, allow you to post your thoughts, your ideas on what are the major reasons or top reasons that impacts productivity, and then I'll move on to the actual techniques that are available to help improve productivity. So Anand and Pradeep, I'll take a pause here. If there are any comments that are coming on YouTube, you can let me know. And then I'll pause for about a minute, and then I will start the next slides.
Sure, sir. Actually, there will be a little delay because since we are live streaming, so it may take a while for us, for the audience to get the questions out.
Okay.
So you may expect a delay, but yeah, definitely we will just put you the questions that come across.
Okay, so can I continue with the slides, or should I wait, or how do you want it? And I can probably continue, and then as and when you get some comments, you can let me know. Is that fine?
So can we pose that as a question, sir? So since you said it's a poll,
Yeah.
can we just put as a question so that people who are seeing that questions can just get back to you?
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. You can do that. Let me know once you have posted it, and then I will move on to the. Then I will wait for about 30 seconds or maybe a minute, and then we can move on to the next.
Sure, sir. I'm just posting that question in the live stream.
Okay.
We can go ahead, sir. I have posted the question, so I will just get you the answers as and when people post it. Okay.
Okay, sure. All right. Okay, so I'll move on to the next part of my presentation. What are the things that can help boost your productivity? And there are there are, and if you do a Google search, right, you will find plenty of options available, that can help you boost productivity. But in my experience and some of the research I have done, I have found that these are the 5 most important areas that you should focus on to be more productive. Um, so the first one is better time management. That is an extremely important area that you should focus on. The second one is reducing tunneling effect, and I'll talk about what tunneling effect is. It's a very common thing that people get into, um, and it's very difficult to overcome this tunneling effect. So I'll talk about how to overcome that. The third one is increasing the focus time at work. Bring focus into your work, right? That is extremely important, and people have to be conscious about it. Focus is something that is not very natural to people. For some people it is quite natural, but for some, or for many people, it is not, doesn't come naturally. So you have to make a conscious effort to actually bring focus into work. The next one is adopt some of the healthy working habits. So I'll talk about some habits that are available, and the final point is improve collaboration. Don't try to do things by yourself if you don't have the skills that are needed. Even if you have the skills, right? I think collaboration is an extremely important tool that is available that can boost not only your productivity but your team's productivity. So what I'll do is in the next few slides, I'll touch upon each of these focus areas, and I'll talk about how each one of them will help you improve your productivity. So the first tool that is available is, um, for every individual, there is a certain time of day. It need not be one single time of a day, but it can be times of a day where people think that they are the most productive. And you need to consciously identify this. I know some people tell me that I'm most productive, between 9 o'clock in the morning and 10 o'clock in the morning. That is the time when I feel very fresh, very energetic. I can really focus, and I feel I'm doing the best work, during that period of time. Or it could be for some others, it could be between 9 and 10 in the morning. It could be between 3 and 4 o'clock in the evening. For some, it could be 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the night, or in the evening actually, when they are the most productive. And there are people, I've come across people who are most productive late at night or very early in the morning. You know, like some people are very productive, at 4 o'clock in the morning. They try to do the most important things between 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock in the morning. Some work, between 10 o'clock in the night and midnight. So there are, and for each one, this is the window is different. And so what one of the techniques that you can do is, you have to identify, find the most productive hours for you, and then you need to protect them the best you can. And what I mean by protect is, you try to use those time without any distractions and try to do the most important tasks that you're working on during that period of time. And the reason I say that is very important is this next slide, is why distractions are a problem. The reason for that is, if you're doing a job, very important job, and you're completely focused, and someone comes and distracts you, either your friend or somebody in your family, or it could be a phone call that distracts you. And what happens is, when you get distracted, you lose your focus. And then once you've spoken to that person, or once you've attended the call and you try to get back to the work, it doesn't come the focus doesn't come back quickly. It actually takes time. So this is the next poll question for you. Once distracted, how long does it take for people to get back to the same level of productivity that they had before they were distracted? So I will pause for maybe about 30 seconds, and then I will tell you what that is, and it will be quite revealing actually what that is. Um, and these are these numbers, these things that I'm talking about. These are based on scientific facts. There's a lot of research that has been done on these over the years, and people have arrived at this based on those research. So these are proven. It's a medical, psychological, research that has happened based on people's behavior, and based on that is what these numbers are. So what that number is, it's actually 23 minutes. So once distracted, for you to get back to the same level of productivity that you were before you were distracted, it takes 23 minutes for you to get back to the same level. So that is the cost of distraction, right? So you lose actually 23 minutes of or the maximum focus that you can bring to work because of distraction. So that is how costly distraction is. And so there are some techniques that are available. These are very, very simple techniques that you can use to avoid distraction. So in the previous slide, I spoke about to find the most productive time window for you. So once you have found that, during the time window, do the most important task for you that day that has been assigned to you or that you are working on during the time window. But you have to do that task without any distractions. So how do you do that? So what we recommend is during the time window when you don't want to be distracted, you can use these simple tools. These are like, so for example, when you go to a hotel, you stay in a hotel, you will see that on the door you will see this "do not disturb" kind of tags that are hanging on the door. Actually, what you can do is you can use those tags. You can create your own tags, or you can buy these tags. It's available. You can do a Google search. You will find these tags are available. You can make your own tags. You can so for example, if you're working on a project and you are in the lab, you're working on a project, and say your most productive time of the day is say between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock in the morning. So you're in the lab, you're working on this very important project, you don't want to be distracted. So you take this tag and put it in the place where you are working, right? You put this "please do not disturb" tag. You put all your devices, your mobile phone, everything that you have, put them on mute, put them on do not disturb mode. If you are actually working on your laptop or your computer and you are connected through a chat or something, put yourself in do not disturb mode, so that you don't get distracted at all while you're doing this very important task. And you should also educate your friends, people who can actually distract you, right? Your friends who are working along with you, educate them that when you put this tag in the place where you are working, tell them that not to, when they see this tag, tell them that they are not supposed to distract you. They are not supposed to come and chat with you or whatever. And this will actually really help you, and it's very easy to do if you're in a workplace. And I have done this actually. We have implemented this in places where I have worked, right? We have implemented it, and I've known that thousands of people have actually used this and benefited from this. It's a very simple technique or tool that is available, but it's very powerful because it helps you avoid distractions and be able to bring a lot of focus into your work. And like I said, distractions are quite costly. It actually, one of the very important cost of distraction is the error that seeps in. So when you're doing a very important job, somebody distracts you, then you go back to the job, and what you will invariably find 9 out of 10 times is that after the distraction, when you start working on something, you'll find that you would have actually made some mistake in the work you have done, right? So um, so avoid distractions, and try to do that during the most productive time window for yourself. Okay. So that is one technique that is available. The second part of being, bringing focus into your work and trying to be, as productive as possible is, productivity is not a constant. throughout the day. People are not productive. People don't work at the highest levels of productivity throughout the day. Productivity actually fluctuates, right? That is why I said there is certain time window where you feel that you are very productive, you're the most productive, but there are some certain time windows that you will not be able to focus at all, right? So productivity kind of goes up and down, it kind of wavers throughout the day, right? But even during the time window, productivity is not a constant. So if you're working on a project, and if you're really focused on that project, say you have to complete it in the next 2 hours, you're really focused on it. But the question is, can you actually maintain the same level of productivity or focus for the entire duration of 2 hours? Now, there was a lot of study. There is a lot of study that has been conducted over the years, and what the researchers have found out is that as time progresses, after a certain point in time, your productivity starts reducing because your brain gets actually tired, and your energy levels also starts going down. So you are not able to bring the same amount of focus, that you are not able to maintain the same amount of focus for the entire duration of the work that you're doing. So this brings me to the next poll question. How long can you stay productivity at a stretch? And this is, I'm talking about based on based on the research that has been done. Is it 15 minutes, 25 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes? And I'll ask Pradeep to post this question on YouTube so you can respond. I'll probably not wait for your response. I think these poll questions, you can take a shot at it. But it's very interesting. You'll be very surprised to find out that it's actually 25 minutes. So what happens is, when you start working on something, you actually your productivity your focus actually keeps increasing. But after 25 minutes, your focus actually starts reducing, and it starts reducing because your energy levels are not the same. Your brain gets tired, and so after that, you will see your productivity goes down. So that is why I said productivity is not a constant. It keeps increasing and decreasing. So how do you avoid this, right? So there is a very beautiful technique that has been developed actually. This was developed by an Italian. His name is Francesco Cirillo. He came up with this technique. It's called the Pomodoro Technique. Some of you might have heard about it. It's a very popular technique that is available. A lot of people across the world, use this technique. So what this technique recommends is that you break your work into chunks of 25 minutes. So if you are actually working on something, say you're supposed to work on it for the next 2 hours. So what you do is you break this 2 hours into chunks of 25 minutes. So how it works is, you do the work for 25 minutes, then you take a pause for 5 minutes. You allow your brain to rest. Your energy levels also goes up. Take a pause for 5 minutes. You can take a break, or those 5 minutes you can actually, check your emails or whatever. You can check your mobile phone, see, any chats and things like that. So you can basically, that 5 minutes you use as a break, and then start your next Pomodoro, which is another 25 minutes. So if you break your work into chunks of 25 minutes with a break of about 5 minutes in between, you will be able to retain your focus continuously, and you will be able to work at the highest levels of productivity. It's such a beautiful technique. If you start practicing this, right, you will find how this technique has really helped people. And practicing these techniques requires a lot of discipline, right? And I think that is where a lot of us lack actually. We are not disciplined people. So as you start practicing it, and as you keep doing it on a day in and a day out basis, what happens is, these techniques, these behaviors becomes an habit, and then you don't really need to practice it. It becomes an habit, so you will continuously do every day. So this is a beautiful technique, and there are lots of apps available actually. So you don't have to really, you don't have to have a clock next to you, start and stop. You can do that also, but there are also apps available, available on mobile. You can download these apps, and then what you can do is, you can start, it just counts down. starts at 25, then counts down to 0. And when it's at 0, it will beep. It provides a notification saying that you're done with 25. Then you can take a break, and then you can again start the clock, the Pomodoro clock. And this, if you practice this, and you can you will be able to experience the level of focus that you can bring to your work. So it's a beautiful technique. It's a proven technique. Millions of people actually use this technique all over the world. So this is how your 60-minute clock will look. If you actually practice Pomodoro, 25 minutes of work, 5 minutes of rest, again another 25 minutes of work, and then 5 minutes of rest. And this is how you can actually harness your time. Actually, the focus time. If you have 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, or whatever, you can break it into Pomodoros, as many Pomodoros as possible, and that actually helps you to keep your focus at the highest levels. Your productivity also increases, and the errors will also reduce, and it will work actually wonders for you if you start practicing it. So I encourage each one of you to try it out, and see how it works. So the next technique is actually a framework that I actually have developed. It's called the 5-10-25 framework, and I have actually experimented this with many folks, in my career, and I have found this to be quite useful. So what this technique is, and it may not be easy to do follow this framework in your college work, during your study, because it probably not may not fit in exactly perfectly into your study, but you can try to practice it. But if you keep this in mind, it will really help you actually when you venture out and start working. It will really help you. So what the technique does is it uses Pomodoro as one of the main techniques. And the framework, what the framework does is uses Pomodoro as the main technique. So what it recommends is, spend at least 5 hours every day as focus time with no distractions. So you have to find those 5 hours in a day, and you have to find what is those 5 hours, and it can be different each and every day, but find those 5 hours, plan ahead, and during those 5 hours every day, you do 10 Pomodoro sessions. So break those 5 hours into 10 Pomodoro sessions. So every day, try to do at least 5 hours of focus time, at least 10 Pomodoro sessions. And for a week, certain days are quite busy. You will not be able to do this in a way you really want it. But in an overall week, actually, you try to harness at least 25 hours of focus time in a week, which actually translate to 50 Pomodoros. And if you do this, if you try to practice this every week, and you follow this, if you have the discipline to really follow this and practice it every week, you will find that you will be operating at your highest levels of productivity. There will be absolutely no regret for you. It will work wonders for you, and you will not make much mistakes. The errors will reduce. You will have better work-life balance because you're very focused. There are no distractions. You are basically doing the most important tasks during this time of the day. So I think this framework, when I started experimenting this framework about 2-3 years back, and tried it with my team, as well as some of the colleagues, other extended teams that I had, and we found that it actually made a lot of difference in the quality of output, in the level of output and the quality of output. Everything really mattered. People started becoming more energetic at work. The stress levels were reduced. They had more time to spend with their family, and so on and so forth. So this is a wonderful framework, and I encourage people to try it out.
Vijay
So
sir, there's been a question from the audience. So the question is, how does it fit to the students' life as they spend most of their time in the classrooms?
So, like I said earlier, right, it may not fit in perfectly during your student life, right? But what you can try to do is these techniques cannot be used in a classroom, because your classroom is your fixed hours, where your faculty coming in and teaching you and all those things, right? But where it can really help you is outside of your classroom, when you are actually doing a project work or a lab work, or when you are in the lab, or for example, if you're doing engineering drawing, right, go to those engineering drawing rooms where you spend about 2-3 hours, right, trying to do your project or your assignment. These are the places where you can start practicing it. But the real impact of this will come, once you move from your college, you go out of your college and start working in your professional life, is where you will start really seeing you will be able to start seeing the impact of these. So this session is not for you to use it right away. Some of these can be used right away, but many of these, if you keep it in mind, it will be helpful for you in the future. So the techniques I spoke about, right, the Pomodoro and all those things, those can be practiced in a certain way even in your college life, or when you do your project work or project assignment or your lab work, whatever that is outside of your classroom time. You can start practicing it, and it will be quite effective actually. Any other questions, Pradeep?
I think students have answered for other polls, sir. So I have posted that in the chat. So you can take a look when you're.
Okay, sure. I will take a look at it later. So the next thing is the next area of focus is the tunneling effect, and I think this is something that a lot of people experience during the day, right? You seem to be quite hectic throughout the day. You seem to be working from morning to night, and you didn't find any time to even take a break or whatever. This doesn't happen every day, but it actually happens quite often. May not be more, may not be as, um, um, may not be a big problem, during your student days, but it actually would become, is one of the most trying problems when you're in your professional life actually. So what happens is, you seem to be working entire day, like 14-15 hours a day. And what happens is, as you work long hours, your attention and ability to focus really narrows, right? You're not able to really focus because, like I said earlier, right, your focus actually diminishes over a period of time. And what happens is, during those days, during the day, right, when you're busy, you seem to be busy on, you seem to be not working on the most important tasks. Actually, you seem to be focused more on the low value tasks right in front of you, because there's there's this task keep coming from different directions. You getting an email from your manager. Your team member sends you something. you know uh, some other colleague actually asks you for some help. There are requests coming from different directions, and so there are a lot of tasks that keep piling up. And so what happens is, you seem to be focused more on the low value tasks. And what you realize at the end of the day is that the most important work that you are supposed to do that day. So the morning, you would have actually thought about it. I want to complete this task today, but you will find at the end of the day that you have not really completed the task because you have been so focused on a lot of other things. And this is what is called tunneling effect actually. And this goes on for days. People get caught up in this is kind of a loop actually. Get caught up every morning. You come to work thinking that you want to do this, and then at the end of the day you find out that you are really not at the time to complete that. So I will actually skip this poll because this poll is not much meant for students as such, right? It's more for working professionals. But how do you overcome the tunneling effect? So there is a technique that is available. It's called the Pareto technique. This technique is actually really not a behavioral technique. It was actually used for something else, but it can be applied to behavioral science also. So what this technique does is, what this technique recommends is that you spend 80% of your time on 20% of the most important tasks that you have at hand. And the remaining 20% of time you spend on the 80% of the lesser important tasks. So how do you find this out, and how do you plan this, how do you execute it, right? So the most important thing that you need to do, it's a step-by-step process. The first thing is, every task that gets assigned to you or comes your way, start making a list of tasks that you need to complete. You start putting listing it down, in a sheet of paper or in your notepad or whatever. There are tools that are available actually for managing your tasks. And for each of the tasks, you actually can assign what is the priority of the task. Is it it's a very high priority task, or is it a low priority task? So assign a priority for each of the tasks, and also assign what is the impact of this task, whether it is an high impact task or a low impact task. If you don't do this task immediately, what happens? Nothing happens. So mark it as a low impact. If you don't do this task immediately, something happens, then it may be an high impact task. So for every task that comes your way, spend maybe 30 seconds analyzing what the task is, and then assigning an impact and priority to the task. And then what you do is you create a list of, you basically separate your tasks into three different buckets. Your list one actually are tasks that are high impact and high priority. List two could be high impact, low priority, and list three could be low impact and high priority. And when you start doing a task, right, you focus on list one first. Try to spend 80% of your time on tasks that are in your list one, and the remaining 20% of your time focus on the tasks that are in list two or list three, right? So if you are able to plan this way, what happens is you would have better visibility into what you are working. You'll focus your time more on the most important tasks of the day, or that you are supposed to complete. But at the same time, you'll also not lose focus on the least important tasks, right? So you will have a bucket list of tasks that you need to complete, and you will be able to take care of it. So this is what the Pareto technique is. And again, this again brings in a discipline factor also. You have to be disciplined enough to document it or track this task. You can do it in any way. You can use Office 365. There are plenty of tools available that where you can actually manage your tasks. So once you have, so these are some tools available. I've just captured two of them. Trello is one of the tools that are available. Some of these tools are free. Actually, you can use it. Office 365 is another one where it's a Microsoft product which you can use for task management. There are other tools available. You can just Google task management. You will find hundreds of tools available that you can use. You can download these tools and use it.
Yes, there is a question from audience. So how do we get out from distraction? So that's a question posted in the live stream window. So
yeah, so
I just posted this in the chat.
Okay, so one of the things that I actually touched upon earlier, right, is how to get overcome distraction is the tool that the do not disturb kind of a tag that you can use in your workplace, where you can put in your workplace and say that, which means that you are actually working on something very important, and people should not come and talk to you. When they see the tag, right, they don't come and disturb you. So you tell your colleagues, your peers, your community that, this is what you do actually. When you put the tag up that you're working on something very important, you don't want to be distracted. So that is one way. The other distraction is your devices, right? So put your devices on mute. Don't attempt to take calls. You just ignore them. You can switch off your email. You can go do not disturb on your chat. So these are some of the things that you have to start practicing. There are tools available that where you can overcome. So the biggest distractions are what, somebody coming and distracting you physically, or your connected devices that are distracting you. The third one is, your mind actually gets distracted, and that is where you have to start practicing the Pomodoro technique. Because if you are actually doing a job without any breaks for a longer period of time, your mind gets tired, and then you start getting distracted. So that is why I told you that you have to break your work into chunks of 25 minutes. Do your job 25 minutes, take a break, again do a job 25 minutes. That actually allows you not to get distracted. Your mind doesn't get distracted. So that is a brilliant technique that is available. So these are some of the techniques you can use to avoid distraction, right? So I will skip this poll also, and I'll come to this. And I think I touched upon some of these things earlier. So once you have created those bucket list of tasks, right? Your task list 1, list 2, and list 3. So what I recommend is 70 to 80% of the time you focus on the most important tasks. So if you have, say, about 5 hours in a day that your focus time in a day that you're going to perform the tasks, right? Spend about 3.3 to 4 hours on the most important tasks, and maybe spend another half an hour to 1 hour on some of the ad hoc tasks, and then another half an hour to 1 hour on meetings and other activities, right? So you have to plan your day such a way that you will have enough time that is available for you to focus on the most important tasks. And how do you plan? And that is where this calendarization technique comes in, and this is just a sample. So what you do is you can do this every day in the morning, or you can do at the beginning of the week. You can plan for the entire week, or you can plan for the day. Now you can do it, using, if you're using any calendar tools, right, like Microsoft Outlook or um, Teams or anything like that, right? You can actually do it there, or there are plenty of planning tools, softwares that are available, apps that are available, mobile apps that you can download them and you can do it. And it really helps you actually, gives you visibility into what you want to accomplish in a day. So what you do is you break your day into chunks of things that you want to know. For example, the priority time is when you want to do the most important tasks. So you plan your priority time. Say you want 5 hours of priority time, so plan it. So between 10 o'clock to 12 o'clock, priority time, from 2 to 4, I want to do it, that way. And then plan some time for doing your ad hoc tasks. If you want to do some meetings, other activities, plan it in a certain way. So you plan your day in such a way that you don't lose focus of what you want to accomplish during that time. So if you don't plan it, what happens is that is when you get caught in the tunneling effect, because you seem to be working throughout the day without any plan. You just start working on ad hoc tasks that come your way, and you completely lose focus, and the entire, and by the time you sense what is happening, the day is done, right? So this planning actually really helps you, to avoid this tunneling effect. Okay. So how much time do I have, Pradeep? I have only about 5 to 10 minutes.
Yes, we are almost there, sir.
Okay. So I will skip some of these things, may not be very relevant to the student community. I will talk about collaboration a little bit, because that is very important. That is something that makes sense for students, right? So
Yes, sir.
there are some techniques available, collaboration techniques. One of the techniques that has been very popular is what is called as pair programming, and this is something that has been used by many companies. Many started. IBM started popularizing this, decades back, and a lot of big companies, do this. What it does is you basically work on a single monitor, on a single, two people actually work together to accomplish a task. And I'm talking from a context of programmers, but this can be applied for any other work. It need not be a programming work. It can be some other work also. You might be working on some other project which need not be programming related, but it's a quite effective technique where two people come together, work on a single, in this case, a single workstation, and to accomplish a task. Now, the biggest advantage of two people working together in pairs is that we found, actually it has been found that it really increases the focus on work. And the way it works is, for example, if you are actually programming, if you are actually doing a job programming, the way it works is one person actually programs, while the other person is actually reviewing as you code. The other person is actually reviewing your code, trying to find out if there are any mistakes. And so what happens is you actually are able to find defects as and when you code, right? And that actually reduces the amount of mistakes that are made, defects that actually creep into a code, and increase your work product quality. And sometimes people argue, you are working on one task, but two people are working, so it's actually double the effort. But what has been what has been found, is that it is really not double the effort, because the rework effort is completely, to minimized a lot, because you're able to, find these defects, early on, and be able to, write, a very high quality code. It can be any product, and it need not be a code. It can be something else also. Your product quality is actually increases, and you can switch. So one person codes, other person reviews. The next day, you can switch roles. So the person who was reviewing yesterday can code, the other person reviews. So this is excellent collaboration technique that is available. And sometimes what we have also found is, this can be used for training also. So if you are a senior and there is a junior person who is working with you on a project or something, this is a good way for the junior person to learn actually, from the senior, because you are actually shadowing that person and you're learning. And as you start doing the job, the senior person really trains you on the job. So this has been found to be useful even from a training standpoint. So this is one collaboration technique that is available for people to use. The second technique is what we call as communities of practice. And this is also a collaboration technique. And the advantage of this technique is, you basically, people of similar interest. For example, someone is interested in, say, artificial intelligence, and you want to learn, share your knowledge, and collaborate with other people who have similar interests. So say there's 10 people who are actually very interested in artificial intelligence. So those 10 people can come together and create a community of practice. You can call it as an artificial intelligence community of practice. And how do you do that? There are tools available. I'll come back to the slide again. These are some of the tools available. You can use Trello, you can use Slack. There are even Teams. There's a lot of tools available. So you can form your own group, using this. For example, in Trello, you can create a group of about 10 people, you know. And what you can do is you can actually start sharing your knowledge with this group. It's like, it's like a WhatsApp group only. It can even be WhatsApp. You can, but WhatsApp is not a good tool for sharing documents and other things. Whereas the other tools, Trello and Teams, are quite good actually for sharing documents and other stuff. So you can actually keep sharing your knowledge. So if you're working on a project, say for example, you're working on a project related to AI, artificial intelligence, and then you're stuck, you come to a point where you're not able to move forward because you're stuck, you don't know how to do it. The communities of practice help because you can immediately post it on your group, saying that, hey, I'm trying to do this and I'm stuck. Does anybody have a clue? Somebody who is knowledgeable enough or who have faced this problem earlier would be able to immediately respond and say that, hey, this is how you do it, or this is how you get fixed. It's very similar to the communities that are created, by many product companies. If you subscribe for products like, say, for example, Adobe or Microsoft or something, you will find these communities of practice where people come and you run into a technical problem. You can post in the chat room, and then somebody will come and respond to you. So you can create such communities of practice within your place of work or where you are studying. For example, if you're college students, you can create your own communities of practice, and you can share knowledge. If you've come across some very good material on the subject, right, you can share it with others in the group. You can say, I came across this, this is the link to that material. I found it to be very useful. You can do that. Or you found something very a good research material or something, you can share it, and then you can start a conversation on that, and then maybe that could lead to something else also. So I think this is a very good practice or a technique that is available that people can start using. See, these techniques are not you know unique techniques. These have been there for a long time. It's just that you have to be conscious about these techniques and start practicing or using it, and use it to your advantage. And as you do that, right, you will find that this will actually start improving your productivity, and you'll be able to do things much better than what you are able to do without these things. So I in the interest of time, I'm going to stop here. I skipped some slides also. But I think most of you would got a gist of what I was trying to cover. Many of these techniques may not be helpful to you immediately, but if you can keep these things in mind, it will definitely help you as you go into your future. As you start working in your professional life, and it will help you for a long time. It's just not at the beginning of your career, even later in your career. For example, uh, I've been working for more than 25 years, but the task management that I spoke about, right? How do you prioritize your tasks? I still do that even today, because that keeps me focused on what I need to accomplish and what I need to what are the most important high priority, high impact tasks that I need to focus on, and that actually helps me a lot. And also things like that will actually help you over a period of time, for a long period of time. So what I'll do is I will actually stop here, and if there are any questions, I'll take those questions.
Thank you, sir. Actually, there was a question
We are
from the
also
audience.
come to the end of.
Uh,
Mhm.
there was a question from audience. It's an interesting question. So, is there an AI model to plan our day?
I doubt, actually. I don't think there is any AI model to plan the day. Maybe it might come in the future, and the reason I say that is because uh, see, every person is unique, and each individual has a certain way of working, and so I think what is important is, you need to just understand what are the tools and techniques that are available, and see how you can actually incorporate that can suit you actually. So maybe in the future there might be I have not come across any AI model, so far. In the future there might be a model which can actually, based on your behavioral patterns over a period of time, it can actually tell you that, hey, these are the 5 things. This is how you have to do your day. This is how you have to, structure yourself. Or these are some of the changes that you have to bring in. And it may happen actually. I think it's a very good question. And something that makes me also think, maybe that's something that I should also start thinking about. But so far, I don't think I have ever come across a AI model.
Yeah, even in fact, while you were showing that Trello board and other community of practices, right, sir? So there are some plugins that are available. Like in Trello, we have that Butler option where we can automate some of those tasks.
Yeah.
So maybe I was thinking that maybe that question was something relevant to the community of practices. So,
Yeah, so there are very specific. These tools provides you, certain plugins, like you said, right? That actually that you can use, but there's a very specific to that particular. For example, communities of practice in Trello, right? I think that works well for that. But I'm saying, as an individual, is there an AI model that can actually assess, how I work? What is the most focused time for me in a day? The model should be able to predict, hey, you are at the highest levels of productivity between 8:30 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. in the morning, and during this time I actually assign you these 4 tasks, because these are the most important tasks you have to complete today. If the model is capable of doing that, and I think that is when, it becomes everything comes together, and it becomes a wonderful model. Actually, I don't think there is anything available today of that sort.
okay, sir.
So what I encourage is, keep. Yeah, just I'll just close with this some closing comments. What I encourage is that, you can actually go through this video once again, just to get a sense of, some of the techniques that are available. Keep it in your mind, and you will be able to practice it. Some of them immediately, some of them maybe not immediately, but in the future, and it will really help you. And I'll tell you that as students, you may not feel pinched about productivity, but when you start working, productivity becomes extremely important. And then you will start hearing all these terms: productivity, work-life balance, stress, overworked, I'm being stretched, all those things, will become part of your, daily vocabulary. So I think if you keep this in mind, it will really help you in the future. Okay, so that is where I leave this. I hope this is useful to all of you. Thank you.
Yes, sir. It's a wonderful session for all of us, and this is time for a thank you speech. And first of all, I need to thank the speaker of the today's session, Mr. Vijay Thomas Francis, sir, who spent his valuable time with us. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And then I need to thank our honorable principal, Dr. P. Thamare Madam, who continuously supporting us to run this session. And also I need to thank the Secretary of GCT Alumni Association, Dr. V. Prasanamuchi sir. And then I need to thank the Vice Club of GCT Youth as well as GCT Alumni Association who running this session successfully. And finally, I need to thank all the participants who all are gathered here. I hope that it was a wonderful session for you. Thank you all.